Benazir Bhutto, former prime minister, has been confronting Musharraf all week. Musharraf has acceded to her two fundamental requests: the military uniform and the elections. This was designed to deflate her threat of continued resistance. Question: do we need Pakistan more than Pakistan needs us? Pat Buchanan.
I think, John, we both need each other. If Pakistan should fall to the Taliban types, the radical militias, and Al-Qaeda, we would have a disaster on our hands, a country of 170 million people with the atom bomb that would make Iraq look like a tea party and Iran be of no concern. We both need each other. There are three forces there. There's the army and Musharraf, there's Mrs. Bhutto, and there's the Taliban radicals. And what we've got to do is try to maintain an alliance of the army, with or without Musharraf, with Mrs. Bhutto and the popular elements, in order to continue the battle and contain those elements in the west of the country, or otherwise we've got a disaster on our hands. And we need Pakistan. We lose Pakistan, I think you've got a defeat in the war on terror unlike any we've experienced.
Are you talking about a Bhutto presidency?
A Bhutto military alliance between Musharraf or whoever succeeds him in charge of the army if she becomes prime minister.
Eleanor, how likely is it the army will defect from Musharraf? He's been in the army for 43 years.
Well, first of all, I want to commend Benazir Bhutto, who's shown extraordinary courage in standing up to the military ruler and conveying President Bush's concepts of democracy. Secondly, the military is a stable institution in Pakistan, and they are above all pragmatic. But they are not going to go down with Musharraf. I think they would switch their allegiance from one general to another quite easily. And I think what's required now is some diplomatic finesse by the administration to see if a power-sharing arrangement can still be worked out, or if not, some sort of face-saving way for Musharraf to step aside. But I think the military is in control there, and they will be in control even if Benazir Bhutto is able to win the elections, which, if they're held, she will win.
Do you think Musharraf can hold on to the military, which is the key to survival?
I think he can, and I want to agree both with Eleanor and with Pat on specific points. After 9/11, the Bush administration threw its lot with Musharraf, but there's always been a fundamental inconsistency between Bush's support for Musharraf, a military man who came to power in a military coup, and Bush's broader push for spreading democracy. General Musharraf is the only bulwark that exists in Pakistan against the Islamists because he's a military guy. So if he goes down, this is where I agree with Pat, if he goes down, the whole thing collapses. And I've got a problem with the Bush administration right now calling for these constant calls for democracy in Pakistan. Democracy in Pakistan is going to look a lot like democracy in Gaza. And to push it now, forcing a collapse of Musharraf, Benazir Bhutto is a smart, tough cookie, but the Islamists in Pakistan will have her for breakfast.
What do you think, James? Do you think that our security in the United States trumps democracy in a pure state, if that can even be conceived, for Pakistan?
It's complicated. I got to totally disagree with Monica. I think Musharraf has tried to cultivate the notion of his indispensability. He's tried to cultivate the notion of him as last bastion against the extremists, and that is not true at all. There are a lot of other secular generals who we could throw our lot with, and I think will throw Musharraf overboard if, in fact, popular support in Pakistan against the military rises, or popular support, I should say, declines. And if the U.S. has the nerve, finally, maybe, to yank some aid, I think at that point, all these guys at the top of the military who are his proteges will say goodbye to him. But nevertheless, having said all that and admitting that this is a mess for the U.S., I think our influence is very limited, all the more so since it's neither in Musharraf or Benazir Bhutto's interest to be seen as too close to us. And finally, it was just alluded to, Afghanistan. That's the big problem, and we've got to focus more on something that Americans have not spent a lot of time focusing on.
What's your intuition of Musharraf as a man? Do you think he's a despot in the classic tradition of despotism?
No, I think he's got a lot of the Shah in him, which is some measures of indecisiveness, and he really doesn't have the real composition of a hardline Mussolini-type dictator. But I do think this, John, if it's a choice, if democracy is not going to deliver somebody favorable to us, forget democracy in Pakistan.
You know what his father did? His father was a diplomat all through life.
Yeah.
You know where Musharraf studied? Musharraf studied in London.
Yeah, but he's
Well,
doing a pretty good.
a lot of them have.
He's doing a pretty good job locking up thousands of people, putting Benazir Bhutto under house arrest. So I don't know how timid he is.
not Stalin.
It's called detention, Eleanor.
Well, right, but look, the religious parties have never gotten more than 11% of the vote in Pakistan. It's essentially a moderate country. If the elections, free and fair elections, go forward, Benazir Bhutto will get 70 to 80% of the vote. She is the face of the next government in Pakistan.
Well, would that please you?
That should please the world.
It's disturbing Buchanan.
I think a strong
If she doesn't have the army-
a strong military within the context of a civilian government. She's not opposed to the army.
Look, I know,
the
but
army is a stable
you
institution.
saw them. They
They're
will
pragmatic.
if you don't get a hard army behind her, they will blow her to kingdom come, as they tried to do.
Right. They'll get behind her if they think she's the next leader, and there'll be another general that replaces Musharraf. That's the best outcome.
If Musharraf cracks down on the protest, will the army go along with him?
It all depends on what the degree of popular support is for the army. Once again, those guys at the top, the other guys have done, the military, have done very well by Musharraf. He's taken care of them big time.
In addition to that, they are all moderates, are they not?
Right, but if they, they read polls too, so to speak, and if they're a popular uprising, they're going to say bye-bye to him.
What is your intuition? Do you think the army would stay with him if he cracks down on the protesters?
Well, it depends. But if the Islamists see that this is their moment, that they have an opening, it doesn't matter. They are going to push with whatever power and force they have to seize control of this country. We're spending all of this time trying to deny Tehran nuclear weapons. Here we have a regime in Pakistan with nuclear weapons, and if we push this whole democratization too far, the whole thing is going to come crashing down, and you're going to have a regime in there worse than the Iranians.
The army is shot through with sedition. The intelligence services is shot through with people who are allies of al-Qaeda. They help put together the Taliban in those intelligence services. You better watch out who down the line is going to be rising to the top.
You're going to put more American money behind Musharraf when he looks like he can't survive. I mean,
I'll put it behind him until he goes down.
Do you think Bhutto could control, direct, and command the army?
Depends on whether, I think if she wins, the army's got no choice but to go with her, because at the top of the army, they are anti-Al-Qaeda.
Let's nail it down. Will Pakistan army stay loyal to General Musharraf? Pat?
For the time being.
If they think he's going down, they'll easily switch their allegiance. There are already names being put out of a secular general who can replace him.
Her position could be weakening a little because he's consented both on elections and on the uniform.
Well, maybe power sharing is still an option.
Will the army stay with him?
I think the army does stay with him because, again, he is the last remaining bulwark between them and the Islamists.
And he's been a member of the army for 43 years.
And he's walked an incredible tightrope.
I'll give you an unequivocal maybe. They may. It depends on whether there's popular support in the country for the military. But I'll tell you, if the U.S. has the nerve, finally, maybe to pull some aid, I think those protégés who've done very well by him are going to say bye-bye to Musharraf.
You are so chicken.
Nuance. It's called nuance.
The answer is the army will stay with Musharraf. When we come back, $100 oil, not to worry.